All right. Today's webinar going over the template and casting your budget to communicate your goals, your application efficiently to the council. My name is Dr. Chelsea. I serve as the program manager for Gateway to the Rockies Regional Council, also referred to as the G. Couple of announcements. Make sure that you are checking the website regularly. There are frequent updates. All videos were being stored in a Google Drive, but due to space issues and storage, that has now switched over to a YouTube channel. So when you click on a link that already passed, that should take you to the YouTube channel. You can subscribe to get updates. You can turn on closed captioning. You can watch videos in 2x speed, pause, and go back and forth to the sections that you want. You can also, the office hours on Thursdays, those are drop-in meetings. They're intended to be more casual, more free-flowing conversation between you and I and whoever else is in attendance. Those used to be webinars where you would register and it would send you a calendar invite. But they have changed to a meeting format, so they no longer require pre-registration. You can click the join button. These are all the same link, so you could just put a standing calendar hold on your calendar, copy the link from there, or you can subscribe to the public GROC Google Calendar, and that should sync so that you get all of the links are in. Also, please keep an eye on the Q&A answer form. I do update this regularly. I've tried to separate it from headings, but several people ask the same question. So please look here before you jump on my bookings page. If you still cannot find an answer to your question, please feel free to use that Q&A form to submit your question, jump on my bookings calendar so we can have a meeting, get as much information to you as possible. So with that, I will go ahead and dive right into budget template. So from the funding page, you scroll down to item number 4, budget template upload. That will update this, populate this in a new window. You do need to download it as a Microsoft Excel. That way you can work in the template. If you don't have a paid version of Microsoft Office, you can always just drop that new version into Google Drive and start editing it there. So I did create a template, a fake application for everyone to view. Also trying to see if I can get a look at the chat. I'm on a different computer today, folks. Oh, there we go. There's the chat. So I do have the chat up. So if you ask questions, I'll try to keep an eye on that and not go too far ahead. So this is going to be the name of your project or program, whatever you titled your application. Keep that title consistent here. The name of the applicant, or again, the organization. So I used Example Apps Incorporated. The application type. So you are going to pick what category your application is going into. The principal representative listed on the application, I used my dog's name. The primary contact, that's going to be my name. It should also have name, title, phone, and email all right here. And then your fiscal contact. My fiscal contact is, oh my God. People said, can you see me now? Can you hear me now? Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I was literally just talking to myself for 6 minutes.
I could hear you. I don't know
Oh
why.
my gosh. Okay, well let me just start over. I guess that was a practice. Amy, you might have to go to the audio options and then use system options. I'm still getting used to this HP, folks. Okay, let me share my screen. Let's start over. Let me get the chat open so I can see you all talking to me. That's so funny. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on budgets for the 2025 request for applications, funding opportunity for the Region 10 Gateway to the Rockies Opioid Council, also referred to as the GROC. My name is Dr. Chelsea. I am the program manager for the council. I'm also your point of contact for all things regarding this funding opportunity. A couple of announcements. Please make sure that you check our website regularly. This is updated almost daily, fixing links, updating webinars. We used to use a shared Google Drive for the videos, but due to storage restrictions, all of the recordings for webinars are now on the YouTube channel. So if you click on the link to a past webinar, that'll take you directly to the YouTube video. If you click on this, this will take you to the YouTube channel more broadly so that you can look at the different playlists and videos that are there. Webinars do require pre-registration for you to attend. All of those links are right there. Once you register, you will get a calendar invite. The office hours on Thursdays are intended to be drop-in, more casual, free-flowing conversation between me and whoever attends, a chance for you guys to network with each other. So that link is all the same. You can just click on the join button. You can also subscribe to the public GROC Google Calendar, and then you'll get calendar invites that will sync to your iCal or your Google Calendar, your Outlook calendar. There are links to either register for the meeting or join the meeting, depending on if it's what type of meeting format it is. So that's another way for you to get calendar invites. Finally, there is a Q&A forum right here. So you can click on the main link, Q&A forum, and then it'll ask you a series of questions. I do check on that regularly. Then I do email individual people the response so that they see it. But please use this link or click this document to look at the list of questions that have been asked already. It's like kind of ask 3 friends before you ask the teacher mentality. If your question is not already answered here, then please send out that Q&A form so that I can check on that and get back to you, or suggest that you jump on my calendar for a more free-flowing conversation. So today we're going to be going over budgets. That is a template upload. So right here on the funding page, if you click on item 4, that's a budget template. That will take you to the Google Drive right here. You will need to download it as an Excel for you to actually work into it. If you don't have a paid version of Microsoft Office Suite on your computer, once you download it as an Excel, you can drop it into your own personal Google Drive, and then you can work out of it just like this. So I did download a template, and I'm going to be using a fake application today. So I'm going to be asking for 2 years of funding. So I just changed this from 2025 to 26 to 2025, 2027. Keep in mind that our budget category is a 2-year strategic plan. So this is the amount of money that we have to allocate through 2020 up to 2027. So all of 25, all of 26, and then in 2027 we'll get new release of funds. So it's a 2-year strategic plan. So I'm going to put the name of the project. Whatever you put right here, this should match the title of your application in your Civic Plus application. Don't change the name of the project. Please keep it as consistent as possible. The name of the applicant or the organization, I use Example Apps Incorporated. Application type, this is a drop-down menu for you to pick. Again, the primary area that your application is going to, as I've stated several times in the webinars that I've answered in the Q&A form, if you do prevention and treatment and it's combined into one application, pick the funding area that is the biggest part of your application. So you might be a big prevention organization, but then you also offer a small portion of your application as treatment. Go to prevention. If you have questions, please reach out to me so I can advise you where to go. And then if you are going to submit more than one application, please reach out to me before you do that so I can appropriately plan the workload. Principal representatives list on the application. You should include name, title, and phone number. So I use my dog. Dakota Bjorn. Bestest Boy is his title. He has a phone number, and then he has an email. The primary contact for the grant, again, it should be name, title, phone number, and then email. And then fiscal contact, also their information. Additional implementing organizations, this is completely optional. Not everyone will have this. So this is, I have any type of partnership, like I've hired an external evaluator for my entire application. And then I'm specifically forming a partnership with a detention center who is allowing me to come and do presentations to help with transition when inmates get out and transitioning in. Then you would put those implementing organizations right here. Kelly asked, so the principal representative would be the executive director? Not necessarily. In most cases, yes. It could be the primary contact's direct report. So I guess a better example for me might be Commissioner Dahl-Kemper, because she's the chair of the GROC. So then I would put her here. It's not necessarily always. Some organizations like JCMH is very big. So their primary contact, I'm using Talia as an example, is like the person writing the grant. She manages the grant, that's Talia. The principal representative is Talia's boss, Kelsey. Kelsey is not the executive director of JCMH, but she is the highest level person to oversee the grant. If you have questions about that, please reach out. And then the fiscal contact is the person who is financially managing your grant. In some cases, that might be the same person as the primary contact. It might be the same person as the executive director. It really just depends on your organizational structure. All right, so going into instructions for budget. You should, in best practice, have a year-by-year itemized budget. Every little thing that you are going to expend money on for this project specifically, you should have a budget for that. So you should have already started that before you come into this template. This template is going to be your cumulative or summary budget. So again, I'm asking for 2 years worth of funding. So this is going to be all of my year 1 and all of my year 2. I am specifically asking for staffing. Let's say it's 7 different salaries that I want to staff over 2 years. I have those 7 itemized salaries in my own Excel spreadsheet for my itemized budget. This template, again, is your general big overview. So I put staffing. This is a budget category. You have to work from left to right. So you cannot fill in column E until you've done C and D. So staffing falls under personnel services. Then I'm going to tell you specifically who those staffing are. They are people to support people in treatment and recovery. And then the subsection is peer recovery centers and events. Then in the description of the item, you have a couple different options here. I might say year 1 salary. Must be for 400. So I put year 1, I'm asking for 10 salaries, that's $400,000. In year 2, I'm also asking for 10 salaries. The amount did go up. Inflation is real. And then in this column, I put the total dollar amount requested. So it'd be the 400 plus the 425 is 825,000. To look at budget categories, approved uses, and subsections, you're going to go to tab 3 on the bottom. This summarizes all of Exhibit E and Exhibit A for you. There might be some variation in vocabulary or verbiage. The jargon might be a little bit different. This is not make or break you if you get something incorrect. This is really just helping us make sure that you are using the dollars for approved uses. If you have questions about approved uses, please reference Exhibit E. That is linked in the funding announcement. You can shoot me an email, use that Q&A form about approved uses. It's kind of just like, again, your best bet. Best guess. Someone asked, are all salaries combined in one row, or does each different position go on a different row? Kelly, you should have, again, an itemized budget of all individual salaries before you come in to the template that you are submitting. The template that you are submitting is your giant overview, everything put together in your big umbrellas. So in this case, we would ask for staffing to be a single line. You could, just because of the approved uses, if you have clinical staff and non-clinical staff, you could do a light item that says staffing non-clinical, staffing clinical. That's completely up to you. This big budget template is just for the initial round so that it does not overwhelm the review committee. If your application makes it to be a finalist, the committee might ask for your itemized budget. So they would want to know how much you're paying the 10 salaries individually at the line item. That does not need to be included in this snapshot overview. I looked at another line item, program development and pilot costs, that fell under materials and supplies right here. Are you saying that we have another GROC template we need to use to record all distinct salaries? You should just use your own. We're not micromanaging you. That would just be like a best practice of you keeping track of your own records. We don't have that template for you. And then this is recovery program expansion. And then here, if you have a vendor source or procurement process, again, this is completely optional. So right here, this is where I'm talking about that partnership with the Example City Detention Center. It's going to cost us $175,000. Community outreach, I did a year 1 and year 2, gave that a total. Evaluation and reporting, that's a contract that falls under research to improve services. I identified that vendor, sample external evaluator from right here. They are going to charge $75,000 in the first year and $100,000 in the second year. That's because they have the final report to do. Program expansion, a year 1, a year 2. I did, and then, so here I was going to show you rent. I did that as contractual. Probably put that as here. You don't necessarily need to put a subsection if it doesn't fit. Then, so once you get, again, these are just your general, like, cumulative groups. Then right here, we have an automatic administrative cost line. As of now, we are capping administrative costs at 10% of your total budget. This is your overhead, your utilities to keep the light on, your software to manage the grant, your grant manager's salary. If you have an executive director who takes a small percentage of every award to fund their salary, that would fall in the administrative cost. This automatically calculates for you. So if you look at that template, it has a formula in it. Please don't mess with it. So the total amount comes out to this number right here, the 1.76. You have a couple of different options for this box right here. I broke it up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. You can keep it one major column. It's totally up to you. I gave you a snapshot of my year 1 budget. Then I gave you a snapshot of my year 2 budget. Note in red, I said my administrative costs were $75,000 and $50,000. That does not, that 75,000 plus 50,000 is 125,000 for administrative costs. But my formula, is 10%. So I have a couple of different options. I can take the administrative costs out of my initial budget and just use the 10% that the GROC is allocating. It's a little bit higher. Or I can change this to 7.8% because my administrative costs are only 7.8% of what I'm asking for. So then here, I would just change this to 7.8%. So I changed it right here to what it would be, the 7.8%, and that got me the new total. I don't think that's wrong. You could put a note right here in this box. This is like a narrative box for you to do with what you want. And say that you are only taking 7.8% of administrative costs, leaving that in the budget right here to show the GROC that you are actually under the administrative costs that we anticipate for programs. That looks really good. This section can also be used to describe reductions in costs, giving the council direction for voting to partially fund. For example, you might start here, like instead of asking for 1,760,000, I'm only going to ask for 150,000. In year one, this would be my focus, so $75,000. In year two, this would be my focus, also $75,000. Again, this budget template is intended to be a snapshot overview of your entire program. We do not want to overwhelm the committee in early reviews of applications. You should be prepared, if you become a finalist, to provide an itemized budget per year, because they will scrutinize how those numbers are coming up. That might also be used in contracting. We try to be lenient so that we don't micromanage, but we also want to ensure that money is being used for approved purposes in Exhibit E. So I'll pause there and kind of see what questions are being asked, if there's understanding of this first page before I go into the second page. Hey, Daniel. So Talia asked, how do we structure the budget for capital ask? Do we need to break it down by funding bucket or only under the capital construction category? If that is the case, how will the reviewers of the application will know which funding bucket to pull from, or is that only during the final round? Also, how specific do you need for projected items to be when it comes to renovation costs, or can renovation costs be its own item? Do we need to include an admin cost? Okay, so Talia asked a lot of great questions. For the initial round of reviews as a capital ask, break down what your capital is. And so if it's construction costs, then you would want a line that says like construction and then furniture, salary plus fringe. Something like this would be fine for this first budget. All of it would be equipment or material supply. It'd be capital construction. This would maybe materials and supplies. You kind of have to play with like what the drop downs are. And then this is where I would just stop right here. For this round, capital is its own category because of the council's position and still exploring the best way to contract in capital. The only capital they have funded was 27 laptops for a co-responder program and the purchase of a van. So nothing as long-term as construction. So capital is going to be its own category that they talk about on their own day. How they review it will depend a lot on how the applications come in. So breaking it up like this, Talia, would be fine. If you want to tell us where, I mean, it's just going to go to capital. Where we pull buckets from has more to do with like me and Chris than it does with you. So I would just keep it here, give us the numbers here. And then how specific do you need to get for projected items when it comes to renovation costs? On this one, Talia, for your initial template, not that specific. Again, if you become a finalist, like let's say I put $500,000 right here, the council might want to know how you're getting $500,000 in furniture. And so having that itemized budget in your back pocket is a really good idea for when you become a finalist. There is no hard and fast rule on how specific the council wants to be. We're only in our second round of funding. Like I said, we try not to micromanage, but you might have someone ask how you're getting $500 in furniture. Is that furnishing 10 floors? You could also do like furniture for 10 floors and 25 bedrooms. Like you could put something like that to help the council and interpret that. Then can renovation costs be its own item? Yes, I would separate out initial construction from remodeling or renovation. I do know specifically that Mayor Bud Starker, his background is in construction, so he's going to look at those things. And then do we have to include admin costs? Talia, yes, because that would be like the admin cost would be your salary as the grant manager and who's doing the reporting. Does it need to be 10%? No, you can change that from the 10% formula. You would just want to notate right here, 5%, take out the formula or change the formula to be the 0.05. And then in here in the notes, so Kelly also asked, I'm not understanding the Q1 at the bottom. Is that format how we should complete the box, or should we customize budget for year 1 and year 2 below it? Kelly, that is up to you. The Q1 box is, think of this as your narrative explanation. So like Talia wanted to change the administrative cost from 10% to 5%. So then she might put a note right here that she's only requesting 5% administrative cost for her salary and one staff member's salary who does the evaluation reporting on the grant. That's it. You can do with this what you see fit. So again, it's writing notes to the council to help them contextualize your budget. This right here, because I wanted to break out like a year 1 and year 2, you can have that note right there. If you have a really long like year 1 and year 2, again, that should be its own spreadsheet, completely separate, that you hold on to in your back pocket until you become a finalist. If the committee asks to see that itemized budget, they might not ask for a budget from everyone, only certain applications. I did this right here because I was initially asking for a lot of money, but then I'm telling the council that if you only want to partially fund me, like I could make it do like this. And so I showed them what this big budget would look like in year 1 and year 2 if I did a reduced cost. That is very complex. It's very high level. If you don't have that much experience with grant writing or budgeting, there's no expectation that you do that. Again, I am here to help you. Please jump on my bookings calendar. Send me an email. If you want to shoot me your budget template and I can leave some comments of I don't understand, expand here. I am here to help you. This is very new for the council, so we're still learning what directions applicants need. So again, please feel free to reach out. I'll give it another minute to see if there's anything else on this tab before I go into the second tab. Talia asked if I could share this on the website. I don't want to put this up because I want people to watch the video because the video gives context. My fear is that if I just put this on the website for someone to download and look at, they're going to copy this exact format when that doesn't necessarily fit their application. So no, no, just watch the video and pause a couple of times. All right, I am going to go into the second tab. This is your work plan template. Again, so on the first page, I'm asking for 2 years, so I'm just going to edit that. If you forget to edit it, it's not the end of the world. I'll fix it for you before the council sees it. Instead of a full budget narrative, we have opted for this worksheet. Again, this is tab 2, your work plan. So the goals that you have here should come from your Civic Plus application. Right here where you put objectives. So these are your big umbrella objectives. And now I'm asking you to break those big umbrella objectives down into 3 specific goals that relate to your budget and your project. When you start typing here, that will automatically populate in the line. So there are some formulas in here, so please don't like add lines. You can, if you need more space, you can drag it like that, that's fine. It will, again, copy here. So that'll auto for you. Then you are going to pick roughly 5 activities that align with that specific goal. So these are you laying the bricks or the pathway to the milestone for us to see. These should ideally come from the timeline section of your application. So that was this section right here. There's a separate webinar on that. Go back and look at it. So now, do you see how this picture is coming together and why I said I like to work in an iterative process? You are going to put the activity. You are going to put the individual or the organization who's responsible for that activity, and then an estimated date of completion. And as I stated in the timeline, because we do not anticipate awards to be announced until July 23rd or 24th, I'm sorry, June 23rd or 24th, contracting to happen in July, the first quarter then might not be until August, September, October of 2025. If you get stuck in contracting for any reason, I mean, we only have one pour Jean and we might have 10 awards. So I don't know if you do 10 contracts at one time. Like you might not have your first quarter until September, October, November of 2025. So you can vaguely put Q1 or month 1. That's fine. And then you're going to put the deliverable. So again, this is the overarching activity, and then this is the tangible outcome that the council can expect. Think of it as we are giving you money, and then you need to give us an object or something in return. That's going to be your deliverable. Remember that the estimated date of completion should align with whatever you put on the timeline right here. It should match. And then you'll do the same thing for goal 2 and the same thing for goal 3. I did that. Talia asked for capital. Is this related to project construction progress, or do you recommend something else? Yes, absolutely. I would put your goals as construction process, as your construction process. So this would be, what are your 3 big milestones, quarter 3? Like, let's say you have a capital ask where you're only asking for construction and your target open is October of 2026. So you're only going to have 1 quarter of being open in this ask of funding. Goal 3 should definitely be opening, and how, like, we would like to see like how you're going to kick off the open, and then your goals might be like breaking ground day, make sure that you invite the G-Rock and so that we can get pictures. And then maybe you have like intakes, how many patients you have, all right here. So your goal 1 and goal 2, you could break it down. Is it like, this would be like breaking ground day, and then this would be like halfway point. Somewhere in each goal, like, you would want to include a measurable. If you have questions about that, jump on my calendar when you get this like mostly set up, so like we can walk through it together. All right, let's see if there are any questions about page 2, the work plan template. I'm not. Talia, will year 1 budget be something that can be rolled over to year 2 if you cannot spend it in 1 year as projected? Hypothetically, yes, you can roll money over. That might require amendments and more formal processes. So keep in mind that you do have quarterly reports that you have to turn in, and there will be post-award learning forums. So if you are awarded, there is an expectation that someone from your team will attend this. Right now I have it quarterly. I might do it bi-monthly learning forum where we talk about quarterly reports and reporting any changes to your budget timeline, because depending on how big of a change it is, that might not be something that Chris can approve himself. It might have to go to the executive committee. It might have to go to a full committee conversation. So hypothetically, yes, you can roll over. Is that a good idea? No. Is that why the council is very hesitant on capital? Yes. So anywhere in your application where you can include backup plans for not meeting your goals in capital, that would be great. Again, I suggest jumping on my calendar so that we could talk about that more specific to your individual application, because every capital application is going to be different. So I don't want to give just very like general placements. Daniel asked, for capital and construction, when you say it's a different category, does that mean we need to file a separate application for construction, i.e. getting a van for the project? So if you're, Daniel, I'm going to use your specific project, if that's okay. So let's say you primarily, right, are asking for scholarships to your sober living home. And you have an agreement with a detention center, so your primary target population is justice involved individuals. And then you also need to buy a van so that you can transport them to their job. That's like $50,000. Like that, I can tell you right now, the council is not going to make or break over buying a van when you're also asking for like the amount of money to cover 10 scholarships in your sober living home. No, please keep that as one application. If you are asking to buy land, that is a completely separate application. If you are asking to buy a house and asking to pay for scholarship money for sober living, that's two separate applications. If you are asking to buy a couple, if you're asking to like do a $50,000 remodel because you want new carpet in your home and you're asking for sober living scholarships, please keep that as one application. If your quote unquote capital is a very small part of your application, please just keep it together. When I'm talking about a solely capital application, I am talking about a very long-term investment that has a lot of liability questions. Is the applicant the owner? Is the GROC the owner? Is Jefferson County as the fiscal agent for the GROC the owner? Who has to carry the insurance? If the applicant faults on the payment or they go out of business, who owns it? Like, those are capital. That would be its own application. Again, if you have questions about this, please email me so that we can ensure that you are submitting the appropriate number of applications in the right way. Kelly asked, if awarded for a 2-year grant, will the contract be a 1-year contract, then that is renewable, or will it be a 2-year contract? That is a project-dependent question for legal. Keeping in mind that even if you are granted 2 years of funding and you fault in year 1, you haven't made any of your benchmarks, or you're still significantly falling short, the council can determine at any time to quit the contract because you're not delivering the way that you said you would deliver. So Kelly, that's not something I can answer at this time. Talia asked, thank you for the info. This makes total sense. It was not specific to my request, but I'd like to know how multi-year funding was going to be treated for rollover funds for the GROC. Also, Kelly's question was my next question based on how multi-year funding is being treated, renewal versus a continuum. So yeah, that is something that legal is exploring and working on right now. It really just depends on the nature of the project and the amount of money and the funding category. We did decide to use multi-year budgeting to really help Chris, who's on the call right now, budget the money coming in and the money going out so that there is a little bit more certainty. If you are performing and it's Q3, you've hit every one of your benchmarks, you have a great relationship with me, with the council, with Chris, your project is going well, Like, you should be able to have the security and stability to know that more money is set aside for you to finish your work. That gets really gray when we again go into like capital. And we say we'll fund capital is not necessarily like a year by year so much as it is based on a project, and you won't exceed a certain dollar amount in a time span because of how money comes down to us. So again, the most simple way I can answer that is I don't have an answer for you at this time. It's project dependent and something that will be thoroughly discussed during the contracting period, which is anticipated to July or August. We're building the plane as we're flying it, folks. Welcome to the new era of opioid abatement funding. We are trying to find sustainable ways for people on the ground to do the work and have the support they need to do the work. We just aren't entirely sure what that looks like right now. We do have 9 minutes left in this webinar, so just checking to see if there are any other questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. This should be, it takes almost a day to transmit these videos, so it'll definitely be up on YouTube by tomorrow, and it'll be linked also on the web page the same time it goes up on the YouTube channel. So again, if you subscribe to YouTube and you have notifications turned on, you'll get the push notification when it becomes available. Seeing if there are any other questions. You guys can also drop into office hours on Tuesday at 1 to 2. Bring your spreadsheets, bring your itemized budget. Trying to make these as helpful as possible. Office hours are also recorded and posted. Okay, Talia's typing. Thanks for the heads up. Kelly said, hi, Linda, what's your email? Chris, do you have anything else to add about budgeting and the best way to use the budget template, kind of like what we're looking for in this first round?
I think you covered it very well. The one thing that I think you referred to that I'll just clarify is that if there is a capital cost, that the 10% wouldn't be added to a capital cost, but to their salary, yes, it would be. Those should be separated out just because you don't take a administrative cost on a capital cost.
Okay.
Typically, just to make sure that's clear. But you did point out that you would reduce and do it based on the salaries, not the actual capital cost. But I always just caution that you usually can't take an admin against a capital cost.
Okay, so Daniel, if you need help figuring out that formula because you do have like a van and your scholarship, get that whole budget done and jump on my calendar, and then I'll show you how to edit the formula so the 10% admin doesn't get charged to the capital purchase of the van. Talia asks, the itemized budget we only need to provide if we make it to the final round, correct? Yes. That's not something we need in the first round. That's something that you should have as a best practice on your own. You will probably need the itemized budget during contracting. You wouldn't want to submit an itemized budget in your quarterly report. If the council doesn't have a problem with your general budget, they're not going to ask for your itemized budget. However, if the council does have a problem with your itemized budget or with your general budget, they might ask for that itemized budget. So you should just be prepared. Also, when you think about like steps to a staircase, right? The very top of the staircase is your project. The second level of the staircase is going to be your general budget with the umbrella items. You have to have an itemized budget somewhere to get to that general budget number. You should not just pull numbers out of thin air and put them on your general budget. Like, I think this is what will be, so like you should have that somewhere, but we're not asking for it in the initial submission. Talia asked, will the final round require more additional information regarding a narrative, like the budget? We'll ask for the itemized budget. Yes. So if you make it to be a finalist, and I would definitely attend the March General Council meeting on March 24th because I will go over this. This has not been finalized by the council yet. So there will be a free group discussion scoring. So your application will be reviewed by a minimum of 4 people, 1 person from each of the 3 counties that represent Region 10, and an advisory board member as the premier subject matter expert. Then in group discussion, applications will be sorted out by score. Those making it to group discussion will go on to group discussion. Those not making it will be held until awards are announced. Group discussion, I will provide a brief overview of the application. Then the 4 people who scored your application will provide 3 minutes worth of summary and discussion points and concerns. Then the floor will open up to anyone who wants to participate in the conversation to ask questions. Then there will be a vote of move on or not move on. Those applications that are moving on in each category will be considered finalists. I will put together a document of questions, outstanding questions from the council. Then I will turn it in to the applicant. They will have a week to respond to all of those questions. That might be an extended narrative. That might be a list of vendors. That might be a more itemized budget. It could be any number of things. Then we go back to group discussion and the finalists. I read off those questions and answers to the council. There's about 8 minutes of group discussion and then a final vote to award or not award. That was very long-winded, but I hope that answered your question. Also, after you submit your application, there is a survey that you will be redirected to that asks you about this process. What went well? What didn't go well? What was confusing? I'm the only person who sees that. I am not a voting member. And that is really for me to revise this process moving forward to see what additional information or support, education, capacity building the council can offer applicants. And if at any point in time you have the questions, please reach out to me. I might just direct you to other resources. Please don't take that as like I'm ignoring you, but there is a degree of support that I can and cannot offer before it becomes like a grant writing class, and that's not something that we can do. So I might just direct you to other resources that can help you answer your question. There's still a degree of creativity and individuality that we want to see in applications. We don't want to give you a very prescriptive, micromanaged template on everything. This is why a lot of these examples are not being posted. They're just in the videos because it forces you to listen to the context and hope. All right, that is time for today. Remember, the office hour is on Thursday from 1 to 2. Feel free to drop in. It's going to be more conversational, not me talking at you and lecturing. And again, feel free to jump on my booking calendar at any time. Go ahead and book out your final application review. Once those spots are filled, those spots are filled. So failing to sign up for a spot in a timely manner does not constitute an error on my side. So please plan ahead for those reviews and conversations. All right, everyone, have a great day. So glad you can come.